Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 149 of the Stomp the Bus Show. I am your host, Mark Harris, and I got a special show right before Turkey Day. ASU football wins again. They move up to number 20 in the college football rankings, setting up a ranked on ranked matchup in the Territorial Cup as they face number 25, Arizona, on Friday in Tempe. We'll also talk about ASU men's basketball in the Maui Invitational. Moe Odum is a god, and a little bit of context came out about the potential Sam Levitt transfer rumors. So that's an interesting thing as well. Not going to be a super long episode here. In fact, I'm recording on Tuesday night, and the ASU men's basketball game against Wazoo at Maui will be starting up before I finish this. So keep that in mind if you're listening to it later. Had to just find a window, but wanted to get this out on a Tuesday night with the game on Friday, and of course Thanksgiving on Thursday. So, please like and subscribe on YouTube. Please rate and review on your podcast platform of choice, and let's get into it. So, before I preview the Territorial Cup, I think we got to review the Colorado game. Let me get that box score up. I mean, just kind of now that we're a few days removed from this win, pretty good. I mean, obviously a great win. I mean, Raleek Brown is the story of the game. An 88-yard touchdown run and multiple runs of over 10 yards, and also like a 55-yard run right before the half that set up a field goal. So we knew Colorado's rush defense was terrible, and it held up in the beginning a little bit. That slowed the offense down. But once ASU could start getting a few seams, getting a few creases, it was over. As you can tell by the box score, I mean, they ran for 355 yards, 8 yards a carry for the whole team. Jeff Sims didn't do anything on the ground, which I find interesting heading into such a huge game. Kanye Udo gets the late touchdown to really put the game away, make it 35-17. Then Jason Brown adds a touchdown after that. And then, I mean, obviously, Raleek Brown, 22 carries, 255 yards. Great game. Now, this game was not as seamless as it would appear from this box score, right? Obviously, 42-17 blowout win. Good enough for ASU to move 5 spots in the college football playoff poll. I think some of that is just due to teams ahead of them losing, but they didn't move up like 2 spots. They moved up 5 spots. So they were higher than I thought they were going to be, actually. I know it says 25 on there now, but they're number 20. But the issue with this game is those 4 turnovers. Not great. Not great to have 4 turnovers in a game. I know, there's a part of me that's just like, okay, I hope ASU kind of just got this out of their system. They knew they were playing an inferior opponent, and they made some like Raleek Brown's fumble was just a stupid decision. He just jumped up when he didn't have to after already gaining like 20 yards right in the at the end of the third quarter there, I believe it was. That fumble gave Colorado some life. It didn't end up mattering. Colorado fumbled right after that to like a walk-on running back. Right at the end of the third quarter there. Their walk-on running back fumbled it. He did it right after they converted a 3rd and 23 screen pass, which that was just brutal watching that live. But then right after that, 14-yard gain, fumbles it, basically untouched. And that once that happened, the game was over. Obviously, Raleek Brown runs it in for 88 yards right after that. I heard some Colorado fans saying that was the reason they lost. No, like it delayed the inevitable. Sure, it didn't delay. It hastened the final result. But even if Colorado had scored there and gone up 24-21 at that point, I think Arizona State would have been able to score after that. So anyway, I mean, regardless, ASU wins by 25 points. The Raleek Brown fumble was terrible. the Demarius Man Robinson fumble, which was just a reception. Of course, right after oh wait, no, wrong one. Just literally a catch and then immediately fumbles it. I don't know if we're going to see Man play too much in the Territorial Cup after that. Like Rayleigh Brown, you can excuse a fumble because he's your best running back. He's going to run for over 1,100 yards this year. He is. I could see him being an NFL draft pick coming up with his. He at least has a unique ability to offer an NFL team, and I could see a smart offense using him well. And he has the potential to run a really quick 40-yard dash too. So Rayleigh Brown, like I can live with his fumble ultimately just because he's been so good. The Man Robinson fumble was really bad. So I don't know if we'll see him on Friday. Jeff Sims, not a great passing line, but I think he played better than this stat line would indicate. I mean, if you complete 11 passes, but you have 206 passing yards, you're doing something right. Like his touchdown pass to Rayleigh Brown on the 4th and 2, the fake QB draw, that was a perfect throw. Put it right in the breadbasket. Like that was a great throw. I thought his throw to Eusebio, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was the best throw of all time. It was just a slant down the middle, but he put it right on the perfect timing, had the perfect play, and gave Eusebio space to run it in for his 68-yard touchdown. And it's crazy that former walk-on Derek Eusebio has 3 catches of 60-plus yards in his ASU career, and he's played, basically 13. I don't this season, and then in sparingly last year, and made one long reception in garbage time of the Territorial Cup. Like it's just funny how that happens, but he's a good player, man, and I think he'll come to play and have a big game on Friday. He can kind of find the weak spots and zones pretty well. So we'll see what happens with him. And then the first throw to Tyson that set up a field goal, like good throw, gave Tyson a chance. He had a few other middle completions, right? Had another one to Tyson, had one to Malik McClain. But that was about it. And that's kind of fine. Like we don't need to have Jeff Sims air it out all the time. Like I think with him, it's much more important to just give him safe throws, have him know exactly what he's doing, give him throws that emphasize his strengths, like throwing downfield. I think that's good for Jeff Sims. His pick sucked. I wasn't that like he just kind of threw it wrong. It wasn't. I'm not going to absolve him for it, but it wasn't a horrible throw. The fumble was just absolutely terrible. If you watch the game, he was trying to kind of flip it out to Harpole, and it came out wrong. And then the Colorado linebacker picked it up right away. Credit to ASU's defense for just stoning them and only allowing a field goal there. The craziest stat of this game is Colorado scored 3 points on 4 ASU turnovers. That is such a credit to the defense, man. Like I think the defense was outstanding in this game. Now, it's funny enough, the 2 touchdown drives they give up were not because of short fields necessarily. That like they weren't messed up by the defense in terms of how field position, but I can live with it, honestly. And the one they gave up in the first half, the touchdown drive that Colorado had, let me check the official drive chart here. Yeah, so I mean, they had forced 3 and outs in a row, a 4 and out, stuffing them on the QB sneak, and then they give up 4 plays, 57 yards. They had one bad run fit, but like when you just give up 4 straight stops, it's hard for me to be really that upset that that you had a one bad touchdown drive. And then the one they had right after the half to start the third quarter to take the lead in the third quarter was that wasn't a great series either. But ultimately, like, that's picking nits. And I just think this ASU team knew for a fact it was clearly better than Colorado, and it eventually played out that way. Um, I do like. I don't think Keith Abney actually played that great of a game. He got beat early by Omarion Miller, who that guy's really good. That's a really good receiver on Colorado. But Miller dropped it, and so it didn't end up mattering. Like I kind of like, if you're Keith Abney, you're watching this game. You know, watching the film of this game before the Territorial Cup, like you saw, he's a smart guy. Like that has to motivate him to play better on Friday, and I expect him to. Like it's like Keith Abney's really good. He'll be playing at home, but it wasn't his best performance on the road. Now, defensively, speaking of good, performances, like Keyshawn Elliott, man, what a game! 2 sacks. He has 7 sacks. He leads the team with 7 sacks. He's a linebacker that has a chance. I mean, heck, with the bowl game, he has a on paper chance to have double-digit sacks this year. That's probably not going to happen. I mean, as a middle linebacker, that's tough to do. But he leads the team with 7, 2, tackles for loss, another pass defense. Justin Watley, 2 sacks. I thought Clayton Smith was going to have a sack, but it just turned out to be a tackle for loss on Lewis. So defense like really played well and just ultimately shut down Colorado. And the 2 long runs that ASU gave up were not great. I just don't really know what to make of it with Colorado. Like, and then they were on the road too. So, this was a win they had to get. I will say that, like, losing this game, or really losing I put this game in the same bin as West Virginia. Like, these were wins you had to get because you had already completed most of the difficulty in your schedule before that. So you needed to get these, on paper wins, and they did that. The West Virginia game was really hairy, but ultimately in the last 2 wins, ASU is graded out doing better than both teams they beat in the success rate metric, meaning on a per play basis, they've done better than the expectation compared to their opponent. And so obviously, like, the only thing that was keeping Colorado in this game early on was the turnovers. And while where West Virginia wasn't turnovers so much, it was just you gave up 2 super long completions and otherwise mostly shut down West Virginia on a play-to-play basis. So getting to 8 wins it's good to just have the 8th win locked in entering a game against a ranked team, a game where ASU was a home underdog in the Territorial Cup. So get, like, whatever happens, right? Like, and this applies to Arizona as well. Like, both of these teams, they already have that 8th win locked in. So even if, obviously neither team wants to lose, and it would be really tough for ASU to lose this game. But like, you really stave off any sort of disaster type scenario, because going 7-5 this year, that would be really bad. That would be really bad for ASU. Something we won't have to deal with. 8-4. I'm not going to be that happy about it. If ASU loses, I know the injuries are a factor, but it at least prevents any sort of real negative outcome. So, and it allows you to just keep the momentum going, right? By winning these games down the stretch, and you have all the sellouts, right? You've sold out every single game this year. Even in a year where not like it hasn't been an ideal year, I don't think any ASU fan would say that. It's not going to be like it already isn't. It's already better than 2015, right? Remember that year, that was the Bercovici year. They start at Texas A&M, they get destroyed. Ironically, who knew that they're facing maybe the best NFL defensive end of all time in Myles Garrett in that game. And then they lose some close games. Their defense was awful. They did beat U of A, but that was a bad U of A team. This is a good U of A team. But they finished 6-6, and from there, the Todd Graham era kind of fizzled out. So that we're avoiding that. 2021 is an interesting comparison. I just feel like this team, considering the injuries, and I would imagine I'm pretty sure with the Texas Tech game in there that this 2025 team has played a more difficult schedule than the 2021 team. And look, the 2021 team was the high point of the Herm Edwards era in terms of wins and losses. This is you already had the high point in 2024. So it's not quite as much of we need to accomplish this. It's more of let's keep this going. And so by getting that 8th win, you avoid any sort of catastrophic, completely disgusting loss. You could argue that applies to the Mississippi State game and the Utah game. The Houston game. I don't think either of those losses are like hugely catastrophic. They're both disappointing. They're both two worse teams than you, I would say. But the Houston game, as bad as it was, it is to a team that will go either 8-4 or 9-3. You didn't lose to a bad team. Utah on the road with Sims, there's weird stuff about his status or Levitt's status leading into that game. Okay. And it's even if everything had gone well entering that week, you still might have lost to Utah. And the Mississippi State, it sucks, but they're clearly an improved team, and it's a non-conference loss that doesn't affect the Big 12 race at all. So none of those losses are like, oh my God. And I mean, this game coming up, obviously you never want to lose to Arizona. Objectively on paper, like they're a ranked team, they're playing really well. It wouldn't be any sort of loss like that. So that's kind of my thoughts wrapping up the Colorado game. It was cool to see Jordan Tyson kind of get some level of revenge on his former school. 2 catches for 61 yards. Like that's still pretty good if it's 2 catches. And I didn't mention this much, but I did not want Dillingham to fall to 0-2 against Coach Prime. And he would have had he lost this game, he would have lost to 2 4-8 Coach Prime teams, So Dilly avoids that. I don't think they have any sort of beef, but just from me as a fan, like I think you just don't want to deal with that. Another record that Dillingham wants to have is he wants to avoid a 1-2 career record in the Territorial Cup. That is what ASU plays on Friday. It's going to be a clear night, not going to be super warm, not going to be super cold. Should be a great crowd. This will be a great crowd at Mountain America Stadium on Friday night. Going to be live on Fox, so you're going to get a huge audience. It's going to be 2 ranked teams, number 25 Arizona versus number 20 ASU. ASU is a 1.5-point home underdog, according to ESPN Bet. And if that's the case, it's the same way in other sports books. I can't as an ASU fan, I don't like that at all. But with the level, I'd say Arizona has been a bit more smooth of an operation entering this game. Now, I will say, if you look at their previous games, and this isn't, rivalry talk, it's more of just looking at their schedule. Okay, they beat the crap out of Colorado. Impressive, right? I'm not going to poo-poo that at all. Great win. They beat them in a better blowout fashion than ASU did. I know that sounds weird, but they just got off to a bigger lead. Kansas game, I'm not going to – I think Kansas missed a field goal late in there. Good win. Any win you have is good. And all of these wins right here are better than Arizona State's win over West Virginia. That game was a real, thank God the final score was just ASU won, because that was a really unpleasant experience. But it's a win. Anyway, so that the Kansas game, it kind of falls in that same category. I'll talk about the Cincy game, but the Baylor game, they were down 17-14 at half. They were up 21-17 entering the fourth quarter, just like ASU was up 21-17 entering the fourth quarter. And then both teams added on, 20-point outbursts to put the game away. And then At Cincinnati, that's their best win of the year by far. Not even trying to be a hater, but there's a good chance Cincinnati finishes the year 7-5. Cincinnati is underdogs at TCU this weekend. So I'm a little like, while this U of A team, if you look at any sort of advanced metrics on them, they grade out better than ASU. Their offense is more efficient. Their quarterback is better. I mean, Fafita is a good college. He's just a good quarterback. I would say they have the advantage at quarterback in this game. But Jeff Sims' rushing ability changes this a little bit, like Dillingham didn't really have him do a lot of QB draws in this game. Not a lot of designed quarterback runs for Jeff Sims against Colorado. I think that could be two things: to have some new wrinkles ready for when they play the Wildcats, and just to keep Jeff Sims a little bit fresher, a little bit more healthy. Not that he's unhealthy, but like have him be as least dinged up as possible, have him be completely ready to go for a Friday night game against Arizona. I'm just excited for this game. I mean, it's been well talked about. Like, this is the biggest Territorial Cup since 2014. That was two 9-2 teams with a berth in the Pac-12 championship game on the line. Winner of that game won the Pac-12 South. Obviously, U of A won that game. That ASU season kind of wasn't all it could have been, but ultimately it was still a good year. Just tough way to finish. Taylor Kelly, who I love, had two kind of overthrew Jalen Strong twice on deep patterns in that game, and that probably was the difference in that game. So, we'll see what could happen in this game. I think there's going to be some weird occurrences. I do want to point out before I share some other stats, and why I say there's weird occurrences is, so Kelly Ford ratings, he's a college football and college basketball analytics guy on Twitter. He has his special teams ratings. So funny enough, Penn State has the best special teams in the country. That's what a year for them to have great special teams in a year that doesn't matter to them. You go through this, okay, and I'm not going to get into the methodology of how it's graded. You look at the very end, Oregon State at the bottom. Anyone who's paid a lick of attention to Oregon State this year would agree that they deserve to be at the bottom. Arizona State at 128, 6.6 grade. Arizona, 6.3. Their kicker has been not that great this year. Let me look up exactly what their kicker has done, but I know that he missed at least one kick last week. Okay, kicker, Arizona. So their kicker is 16 of 25. He is perfect on his kicks. Michael Salgado Medina, he's perfect 20 to 29, 6 of 9, 30 to 39 yards, 3 of 7, 40 to 49 yards. Weirdly, he's 3 of 5 from 50 plus and has hit a 57-yarder. So he has a leg, but not accurate as the season has gone along. He's made all but one extra point. So, that's something to pay attention to in this game. And one thing I would also mention is, ASU special teams has not been as big of an issue, I would say, this past game, and I would say most of the West Virginia game. In this past game, Gomez made all his kicks. There weren't any weird special teams things that stood out. It seemed like Canyon Floyd was punting very well. Floyd also punted well in the game before versus West Virginia. It compared to previous games, it seemed like the ball was just flying further, and he just gave ASU much more of a chance with each of his punts. Now, in the West Virginia game, Gomez had a field goal blocked in the second half, but then he hit a 49-yarder to give ASU the lead with just under 3 minutes to go so clearly his field goal kicking has looked a bit better despite the one miss. And so Gomez is 21 of 28 this year, but he's just his misses, 4 of them have been 40 to 49 yards. I imagine 2 of those are blocks. He's 1 of 2 from 50, 6 of 7, 20 to 29, 8 of 9, 30 to 39. That might be the most important. And the eye test, he hasn't missed any extra points. He's just kind of held down that kicking job in a much more consistent way. And I mean, that 49-yard field goal against West Virginia, like that, we would have a very different outlook on this season, even though it's just one game. It had Gomez missed that 49-yarder late against West Virginia. So I think that ASU has an advantage there. I think their low ranking in the Kelly Ford special team ratings that he has is influenced by just the complete cluster bleep that their special teams was, I'd say, kind of midway in the season and a little bit early on. And so, if ASU is their defense, which has been consistent all year, it's been like 15 to 24 points in every game but one. If they're holding Arizona to some field goals, that has the chance to be advantageous for ASU, because one missed field goal by Arizona's kicker could change the whole course of this game. So that is something to keep an eye on in this game. Don't want to focus on that too much. So Arizona, their offense is pretty diverse in terms of their targets. I would say, Fafita's had a really good year. He threw a pick last week, but he's had a really good year. Their receiving yards leader is Chris Hudson. And he had a great game last week against Baylor. But then the thing is, they have 3 guys with over 300 receiving yards, and then 2 more wide receivers with over 240 receiving yards. So they don't really use their tight ends. Their top 2 tight ends have 103 and 100 receiving yards on the year. So you're not going to be quite as worried about that. They don't throw to the running backs a ton. It's the wide receivers. It's Chris Hunter, Trey Spivey, Javon Watley, Javen, and then Chris Hudson leading the way. So it'll be interesting to see how ASU deploys its defensive backs against those guys. I love having Keith Abney in this game. I love having Javen Robinson in this game. Not that Javen Robinson's going to get a few times on Friday night, but he'll make some plays as well. One thing to really watch for on the injury report that'll come out later this week, I think on Wednesday night, is the status of Rodney Bimage for ASU. He tweeted he wants to play. He was out last week after that hard hit he took against West Virginia the week before. I think ASU has I think Rodney Bimage playing could be something that really benefits ASU in this game. So I don't think, if he doesn't play, I don't think ASU is screwed or has no chance or anything like that. But him playing would be great for ASU. And obviously, I don't think the coaches are going to force him to play or anything like that, but that's just something to pay attention to. Arizona's rushing attack is pretty good. I'd say they have 3 legitimate running backs. In terms of total yards per game, let's see here. Total rushing yards per game, not the best stat, but it still gives some context. And so let's go rushing yards per game. This is just on ESPN. So Arizona State is probably right around top 25 in rushing yards per game, just under 200 at 197.5 yards rushing per game. Arizona, solidly below that, but not a ton. 156.1 rushing yards per game. So that's not quite as much a part of their offense. But they have guys that can hurt you. So I don't think ASU is just completely out of the woods in terms of facing. They have good running backs. Ishmael Mahdi, we saw him last year at Texas State. He's pretty good. I mean, they just gave up 2 long runs at Colorado. That could be partially the way they were playing, a pass-happy Colorado team. So that's something to keep an eye on. I think ASU will be able to limit their running game pretty well. And I want to go into this because I think really, aside from some special teams, mistakes or anything like that, I think what this game really comes down to, obviously ASU stopping U of A on the ground is important. But I think if you're U of A, I think the fact that their rushing defense, and this is at collegefootballnerds.com, this is relative performance ranking of rushing yards. So it does line up with Texas Tech. Texas Tech has the best relative performance in rushing yards allowed, and they also have the best rushing defense. They allow 71.8 rushing yards per game. So it lines up exactly with that. In relative performance of rushing yards, Arizona State is 28th defensively. Solid. And that kind of tracks with where they rank in terms of yards allowed. Arizona, in this defensive metric, 69th. Below average or below average in all of college football. 2 slots ahead of Iowa State, who ASU absolutely torched on the ground when they played up in Ames. I also want to see West Virginia, a team that did pretty well against ASU, solidly ahead of Arizona in this metric. So my point with this is ASU with Jeff Sims and Rayleigh Brown, those two primarily, needs to run the ball in this game. And I think this can be a game where U of A wears down a little bit over time. I mean, if Colorado was stopping ASU early on, then I think U of A has the chance to do that as well. And let's see, ASU's rushing offense. I'm not doing per carry, I'm doing per game. According to College Football Nerds, ASU was 22nd. Okay. So this is something that ASU really needs to focus on, and I think they will. I think it was purposeful that Dillingham did not have a lot of designed QB runs for Sims. Like I said earlier, to keep him fresh and to not show anything. So that's just an interesting subplot to this game. But I think, like, if you're on both coaching staffs, right, like Arizona clearly has a good coaching staff. Danny Gonzalez, we know him from ASU. He's a good defensive coordinator. Their defense has improved by leaps and bounds this year. They'll be, I'm sure they'll be talking about this as well, obviously. But I do think ASU has the ability to execute in the run game against their defense. And I just think it's a smart idea for ASU to not go pass happy in this game and not have that be the main form of attack that they use offensively, because U of A, I would say in total they have a better secondary than ASU, not by a lot, but their safety tandem of Dalton Johnson and Genesis Smith, that's a good one too. I mean, both those, Genesis Smith will definitely play in the NFL, and then Johnson probably will as well. So they're all listed as DBs, and then Traden Stukes is a great defensive back as well. I don't think it's wise for a Jeff Sims led offense to just target the Arizona defensive backfield. I don't think that's the greatest thing to do. Now, that being said, if you run the ball pretty well and you do that most of the time, you draw their linebackers in, then there will be opportunities. Obviously, I think this is a game where Mateer could have a pretty good game, especially if the run game's going. And obviously, Jordan Tyson, right? Like Jordan Tyson, like I trust him to get open against these Arizona defensive backs, but that doesn't mean he should be overused in this game. I do think it's more of a pick your spots with Tyson. And I think I trust this coaching staff to be able to do that. So, yeah, I think that I hope that the turnovers in this last game against Colorado were kind of something they just had to get out of their system in these 3 games with Sims post-Levitt injury against Houston. He had the 3 turnovers against Iowa State. Didn't really end up mattering. I think Iowa State scored 1 touchdown off those turnovers. Had the 1 turnover, had the mishandled snap on the 4th and 1 against West Virginia. Kind of a meaningless turnover. If you either get the 4th down or you don't, right? And then this past game, 2 from Sims and then 2 from the running backs. I think that any non-Jeff Sims player cannot turn the ball over in this game. Like that is a death knell. Because I am just kind of baking in this game that Sims will have 1 turnover of some kind. And I think ASU can win the game if Sims throws 1 interception or has 1 fumble. I don't think that's a crazy thing, but anything more than that, this is just too good of a U of A team to give them extra opportunities. So, yeah, I just think it needs to be a run game. Priority for ASU. I think the ASU defense, I think they can hold this U of A team to 24 points. I think they can have a game where they just play like they've played in the past, and that means U of A is going to score like 20 to 24 points. I think they'll get after Fafita a little bit, but I think Fafita will carve them up to an extent. When I say carve them up, that implies they're just going to destroy them. I don't believe that, but I do believe that he'll complete some passes against this defense. So I think Fafita will have a decent day. If they can pressure him, that would be great. I wonder if Ward has some exotic blitzes saved for this game. We'll see. This is a proud group, right? I think it's good that ASU is officially an underdog in this game. That is going to motivate these players after they've been winning games, right? The players don't care. Oh, we only won by a little bit. Like you win or you lose, right? And being an underdog, I think that they're at home, they're underdogs. They are facing a team that is ranked, so it's another opportunity to pick up another ranked win. And I haven't really mentioned this much on the show because I think it's really been a complete waste of time for ASU media to spend so much time on this, but they still have a chance to win the Big 12. And the game is being played on a Friday. The other games, BYU against UCF, Texas Tech at West Virginia, and the Utah game, those all happen after the Territorial Cup. So if ASU, no matter what, they can play the Territorial Cup being like, hey, we need to keep our Big 12 championship hopes alive with a win in this game. And so that's another legitimate piece of motivation right there that Dillingham can use. I haven't spent too much time on the Big 12 championship participant tiebreaker stuff. I just didn't expect Cincinnati to beat BYU, and ASU probably would have needed that. Guess what? Cincinnati lost to BYU, and then BYU. If ASU wins and BYU loses to UCF, then ASU has a chance to make it in. I just don't see that happening at all. BYU is playing for its college football playoff life. They are playing for a spot in the Big 12 championship game. They're playing for an 11-1 season, and they don't want to have a dumb loss to a bad UCF team in Provo on their ledger. So I think they'll be plenty motivated. I think this BYU team is better than last year's BYU team. And so, all of that, I'm not focusing too much on Big 12 championship stakes or whatever, but it is still a legitimate possibility. ASU has a 2% chance of making it there. And so when you factor all that in, Dillingham can be like, hey, we beat these guys last year. Now they're favorites. Now they're coming into our house as favorites, and they're a ranked team. Like there's real beyond just like even the Territorial Cup hate. I don't know how much that matters in a game like this, where so many guys on this ASU team, like they're our quarterbacks from Florida, like all of our defensive players are from Texas. Like we got guys from California. Like it's a guys from the Midwest sprinkled in. Like it's not all these guys who grew up in Glendale and grew up in Chandler and like, oh, the Territorial Cup, like no, like they don't remember the 2014 Territorial Cup like the people in the stands will. But all these motivational factors, I think, can help ASU. Oh, what else? I do want to touch on the trick play at the end of the first half was interesting to me, and it was a pass or quarterback lateral to Tyson with Mateer streaking towards the back of the end zone. Mateer was open. Tyson overthrew him. That's well coached. And I like, oh, but Mark, he missed the pass. Well, if you're throwing a pass like that in that moment, you have to overthrow it more than you underthrow it. Because if you underthrow it, it can get picked, and then ASU just doesn't score, and it looks like a complete stupid play call right before the half. Didn't happen. Tyson overshot it a little bit, and the ASU settled for the field goal. I wonder if ASU will have another additional trick play off of that, or if they'll set up some other type of play where they have Sims kind of fake pass it back to Tyson, but don't actually do it, or they do pass it back to Tyson. Tyson finds a different type of receiver. Tyson, something like that. So I wonder if that trick play at the end of the half against Colorado was setting up for something else. You could say that for the fake punt as well. I don't know. I think fake punts are a little bit more situational. So I mean, I could see ASU having some sort of fake special teams thing. Depends on the game script. Ideally ASU won't have to be in that position. We'll see. So, that's where my mind is at with this game. Score prediction. I'll go ASU wins 27-24. Don't feel great about it. This is a real coin flip type game. Boy, it would be great if ASU got a defensive touchdown in this game. They had some defensive touchdowns last year. I don't think we've really had, last week, no defensive touchdowns. The week before, no defensive touchdowns. No defensive touchdowns against Iowa State. So when you're just going through, like, I'm pretty sure they haven't had a defensive touchdown this whole year. Maybe law of averages, one pops out. There's a fortunate bounce somewhere that can be picked up and run in. I don't know, but a defensive touchdown in this game. I mean, the ASU was brought pressure, like they have a good amount of sacks this year. I think they have 31 sacks, which is like top 15 in the country. So, Ward can dial up blitzes, but I do think that that would be beneficial. That said, I think ASU can win this game anyway, but I will not be surprised if U of A wins, man. Like they're favored. They have good players. Brennan's a good coach. I'm not going to go into this game with any sort of blind outlook on ASU's opponent. So should be a great game. Would love to get this win. It would put a bit of a damper on the season if you lose to U of A and they end up with a better record than you. I don't think it would really throw off the trajectory of the ASU program that much in the grand scheme of things, but it would be a tough loss all the same. Considering ASU is 20th, I don't know how much, if it's a close loss, I don't know how much they would actually move down in the college football playoff poll. So, that's a different thing, but ideally ASU doesn't really have to worry about that. So should be a fun game. I've heard people say that it's better for the series that both teams are really good. I get that. For me, like as a fan, I would just much rather have an easier win at the end of the year, but I get why media members would say that. So, just really excited. And glad ASU is in a position to potentially still have a 9-3 season. That's pretty important too. I will talk about more what that means if ASU wins. We don't know what's going to happen, but I have to end this portion of it with saying, like, hey, with the injuries, like with some close games that ASU has played, with not the easiest schedule in the world either, they have a chance to go 9-3, and that's a good thing. All right. One quick football topic before I transition over to men's basketball and touch on some other sports. Obviously, we touched on the Sam Levitt rumors last week with the report from Pete Nakos. Nothing has really changed on that front. It seems like Sam Levitt is still questionable at best to return to ASU. I think it was interesting that in view of the media, and this is from Brad Denny's Twitter account, Brad B. Denny 29 on Twitter, works at AZ Family, does great work. He has a video of Levitt on the cart watching, I think, Christian Hunt throw passes. Apparently, he had been out at practice on the cart before, but not in view of the media. So I think it's a pretty symbolic gesture for Levitt to be out there in full view. You see this picture here today. You see Levitt, kind of in the player huddle right here, listening to a coach. I still think that Levitt is going to transfer, and I think we'll know. Whenever the next time I record, next week at some point, I'm sure we'll have more information and more clarity about that. There's going to be so much news just around college football that happens after this weekend, beyond just in the state of Mississippi with Lane Kiffin. I will say this, though, even though I think Levitt is ultimately going to transfer, this is an interesting gesture right here. And I think, when you pair that with his camp clearly not wanting it to be out that he's a 100% decided to go somewhere, I do think it's interesting that he's making a public appearance here. And I mean, just from the just from the personal level, if he's just supporting his teammates, and I respect him for just having a show of support for his teammates ahead of a really big game. There was some word that came out where he wasn't really there at the West Virginia game quite as much. So it'll be interesting if he's sitting with Cam Scattaboo, who will be at this game, both injured with leg injuries. I don't expect any sort of crowd shot to show Levitt right now, because I don't think you want any chance of the fans booing him, or at least some fans booing him. So I doubt that we'll see, if you're at the game, I doubt that we'll see a crowd shot put up on the video board of Sam Levitt. So just kind of an interesting little note from Tuesday's practice this morning. All right. Going to switch it over to men's basketball. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to women's basketball. They have a chance to improve to 6-0 tonight when they host Utah Tech. They had an incredible heave bank game-winning three, or go-ahead three late against UNLV this weekend, which was awesome, against a good UNLV team. Volleyball just won its second straight Big 12 championship. JJ Van Niel, again, just doing an absolutely awesome job. They'll make the tournament again, obviously, and they're top 10 in the rankings. And then hockey kind of staved off embarrassment, I would say, by splitting against Denver. They got blown out in the first game, but then won the second one. They're at least keeping themselves in a decent position as the season continues. So I wanted to shout out those teams. All right, last night, if anyone stayed up on Monday night to watch Arizona State squeak by the Texas Longhorns, 87-86 in the Maui Invitational, you saw a great game. ASU right now is playing Washington State in the semifinal to make it to the Maui Invitational championship game. But you know what? Like beating this Texas team, like the Texas team that I saw play last night, like they're probably going to make the tournament, right? I would expect the Texas team. That Dalen Swain kid had a great game, even though he missed the 2 late free throws against ASU. So that was a good win, no matter what happens in the rest of the Maui Invitational. Even if I'm just saying this, no matter like whether ASU wins or loses against Washington State, I'm not really following the game that much right now. Having this win against Texas is big because I think Texas will go on to be a tournament team. And so then you have a non-conference win over a tournament team in your back pocket. And no matter what, if they win, they'll face USC. If they lose, they'll face Seton Hall. Either way, that's a good addition to add to your resume as well. So just by winning that game against Texas, you avoided another loss, obviously, and you avoided having to play Chaminade today. And that would have been a complete nothing burger on your resume because they're a D2 team. And then you would have played you really only have the chance to get one quality win in Maui. So, like, when you think about it that way, like that makes it a really big win for ASU. And the main star, Moe Odum, dude was incredible. You can see the final shot here. He's dribbling. He just weaves it a bit, hucks it up, great defense, and just swishes it. He made so many tough threes in this game. Funny enough, he actually missed like 2 relatively wide open threes as well. Man, this guy loves to play. There was some video of him and Pig Johnson like getting lifted up after the game. You had a lot of ASU fans there. It was just it was such a fun thing to watch. It was really stressful, but ASU they never really let Texas totally pull away. Texas went up by 10 at one point in the second half. Texas in the second half, I mean, they made so many shots. They got to the rim kind of at will. Masamba Diop, who played really well in the last few minutes of this game with a 3-point play and a tough like push shot off the glass within the like last minute and a half of this game. He was in foul trouble this entire game, it seemed like. And ASU kind of held on with Truett and Mukeba and Gribovic kind of as the big bodies in there, a little bit of Mayusin. But it was really Moe Odum leading the way. And, you see that 16 of 18 free throws right there. That's not the way you kind of envision scoring that level of points, but we'll take it. And yeah, I mean, just Moe Odum, like this guy's going to be so fun to watch this year. I hope he's a smaller guy. I hope that like he doesn't wear down as the season goes along. I'm not super worried about that though. He seemed to be having, plenty of energy in the end of this game. It was a long, hard-fought game. Pig Johnson as well. Pig Johnson really gave this team a lot of boost early on in the game, and his speed shows up. His quick first step, his quickness, it showed up against Gonzaga, right? Showed up against Texas. So it's going to show up later this year as the season continues. I thought that there weren't a whole bunch of like dumb shots in this game, and that could just be a product of what this team is this year. So, yeah, I mean, this all might sound worse if ASU ends up losing to Washington State. They were locked in a kind of a tight game at last check. But either they beat Washington State and they pick up another win, and then they get to play USC in the Maui Invitational Championship game on Wednesday, or they lose and then they can play Seton Hall in the third place game. And obviously you want to win the Maui Invitational, but if you end up leaving the Maui tournament with a win over Texas, a loss to Washington State would be disappointing, but then you go and beat Seton Hall. That's 2 wins that should probably age pretty well as the season goes along. So I'd say like already a pretty good start to the Maui Invitational for ASU. Moe Odum is just going to be well known. I mean, I saw him play at Georgia State, and when his shot is going, it looks really good. So, yeah, I'm just glad. I had a conversation with someone like after the Gonzaga game, and ASU didn't play that well, and they're like, "Oh, ASU's bad again." And I wasn't even going to be like, "Oh, actually, they can do this and this." It was more just like, "Yeah, it's kind of nice having a team where there's not huge expectations." And you know what? This team is completely so far through what are they? 7 games in, 6 games in, but it doesn't matter. 6, 7 games in. They've completely surpassed expectations to this point. And that's good, right? Like I didn't expect much from this team this year, but they're clearly just way more talented and deeper than anyone thought. And they play well together. They seem to have a good spirit about them. They have good guards who distribute the ball well and don't take stupid shots that often. They have enough big guys. So, like, it's a fairly well-constructed team given, the resources that they had to work with. And, I mean, Moe Odum, he's making the most of his opportunity, man. Like, he was saying how, like, this is a chance to play high major ball. And so you got guys that are, like, this, I don't want to say it's their last chance, but like this is really an opportunity for them to show out in the Big 12 against high level competition. And maybe some of the teams in the past, you get guys straight out of high school who were really highly ranked. You get a guy like BJ Freeman who's just a bad vibes. Jose Perez didn't seem, he leaves the team before the season ends. Some guys like that. I don't think it's quite as much of a me first attitude. It just seems like the offense flows well. And they have some defensive issues. Texas, just watching the game, they just seemed much bigger than ASU. And that kind of showed out in the final score with ASU making so many points from the free throw line and from the 3-point line. But hey, you know what? You get the win. You don't apologize for it. And we move on. So we enter the Territorial Cup this weekend. A win would be exemplary. It would set up ASU so well heading into the offseason. It would give them a chance for a 10-win season. It would guarantee that they finish the year ranked. And obviously, it's another win over your rival. And that's what this is about. So let's hope for the best. And yeah. All right. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe on YouTube, rate and review on your podcast platform of choice. And as always, go Devils, beat the Wildcats.